issues. And when you look at religiosity, you can see that that cohort 18 to 30, there are more now converts from apostates or agnostics or atheists to believers. What would happen to that person if they were in a blue state? They would throw the book at them, or they would cry. They would get so angry.
Polling data consistently shows that many voters, particularly from the working and middle classes, believe their concerns have been ignored by mainstream politicians. They worry that energy policies, unchecked migration, and weakening defense capabilities have left Germany economically vulnerable and socially fractured. This surge of populist nationalism in Germany is emblematic of broader trends sweeping Europe. From France to Italy to the Netherlands, similar patterns emerge. Voters are pushing back against decades of European Union directives, unchecked immigration, and economic uncertainty. Political analysts warn that this polarization will only grow more intense as European governments continue to struggle with economic stagnation, cultural integration, and demographic challenges. In short, Germany's recent political shift is not an isolated event. It represents a growing wave of populism that threatens to reshape European politics entirely. As we move forward, let's consider how these political changes tie into Europe's growing reliance on the United States for defense, energy, and trade. Europe's decisions over recent decades have significantly deepened its dependency on the United States, not just economically, but strategically. This growing reliance is particularly evident in defense, energy imports, and trade dynamics, placing Europe in a vulnerable and complicated position. Germany's case illustrates this dependency clearly. Despite its economic strength, Germany remains surprisingly reliant on American military support. Victor Davis Hanson highlights this stark reality.
But here's another point. We have right now about 40 bases and over 50,000 American soldiers in Germany. Germany spends 1.5% of GDP. People look up to it in NATO and then say, we don't have to meet the 2% benchmark that's required of us over a decade, because Germany does it, because it's disarmed, because they will not frack and they will not use nuclear energy.
This military dependency isn't isolated. It underscores broader strategic vulnerabilities. Europe's refusal to invest adequately in its own defense has sparked intense debates within NATO, as member states increasingly question why Europe's richest countries remain unable or unwilling to carry their fair share of defense responsibilities. Energy policy further complicates the situation. European nations, particularly Germany, have restricted domestic energy production, banning fracking, and systematically closing nuclear power plants. As a result, they find themselves dependent on imported American liquefied natural gas, LNG, or unstable energy sources from politically volatile regions, increasing their strategic exposure. Hanson points out the stark contrast between current European policies and alternative paths championed by conservative voices within the continent.
And all they would have to do is look at the voices of dissent on the conservative side that are calling for cheaper energy, closed borders, freer speech, reindustrializing, strong defense, and they're not.
Yet, European policymakers largely dismiss these voices, perpetuating policies that deepen their dependency rather than alleviating it. The implications extend into economic realms too. Trade relations between the United States and Europe have long been uneven, with Europe benefiting from favorable tariff arrangements and substantial trade surpluses at America's expense. Recent transatlantic debates highlight the urgent need for reforming tariffs and establishing a more balanced trade relationship to ensure long-term economic fairness and stability. These factors, defense reliance, energy insecurity, and imbalanced trade, paint a troubling picture of Europe's future. The continent's choices today will profoundly shape its ability to navigate future geopolitical tensions and economic disruptions. Finally, let's wrap up by reflecting on what these trends mean for Europe's path forward and how historical lessons might inform the choices it now faces. Europe stands at a critical crossroads. Throughout this analysis, inspired by Victor Davis Hanson's insightful observations, we've explored how deliberate policy choices have sparked Europe's energy crisis, triggered Germany's industrial decline, and intensified demographic pressures. Historical parallels reveal that today's voluntary actions eerily reflect earlier, abandoned plans designed to weaken Germany's economic and military foundations. Politically, Europe is witnessing growing backlash from populations dissatisfied with the status quo, fueling polarization and reshaping national politics. Economically and militarily, Europe finds itself more reliant than ever on American support, a dependence that leaves it strategically exposed and vulnerable.
I have a piece of advice for Mr. Mertz. I'd be very careful for what you say, because there's no law that says that the United States has to keep protecting you.
Indeed, Europe's stability hinges significantly on American military presence and economic support, a reality that may not persist indefinitely, especially if Europe's own choices continue to weaken its strategic position. Hanson further emphasizes this critical perspective by stating,
"There's no law that says the United States has to keep subsidizing you to the tune of $80 or $90 billion a year, and there's no law that says that we have to be, as we have been for 85 years, committed to having a sizable presence in NATO and paying 16 to 17% of the budget. We want to do that. As J.D. Vance said, we want you to reform. We want you to be the powerhouse of Europe. We want you to be a partner in the Western. But if you don't want to, we're not going to force you."
Ultimately, the crucial question remains,